Hello and welcome to the lecture series on automobile engineering. Continuing to the last session in which we have discussed about automotive suspension system and we mainly focused on the leaf spring and coil spring. Here we'll study about the rubber springs. So this is another classification of rubber spring that is different as compared to steel springs. So in previous lecture we have studied about steel springs in which we focused on leaf springs and coil springs and other types of leaf springs that are basically used in LCVs and HCVs. Today we'll basically focus the rubber springs that will include the compression spring, compression shear spring, steel reinforced spring, progressive spring, torsional shear springs. So to start with the rubber springs, we must know the advantages of using rubber springs as compared to the steel springs. So basically, we can see that a rubber material can store greater energy per unit weight as compared to the steel. So due to this reason, rubber springing system can be made more compact. Okay. So the rubber has excellent vibration damping properties. So this makes it suitable to be used as spring. So there is no squeaking action which is always present in steel springs. So we used to get a sound of squeak. So that is not there in case of rubber springs. So rubber is more reliable as compared to the steel. Okay. So the number of bearings is reduced considerably for the rubber suspension system. So this ensures a longer life of the rubber part. Less number of bearings are required, and the various types of springs that are in picture in use in automobile systems are basically rubber compression spring. Okay. So this type of spring is still being used because of the features like it's reliable, it's simple in construction, there is no bonding that is required for their usage, and it restricts occasional overload of bigger intensity and provides a better dampening effect. And in this case, what is limited is basically guides are required to basically guide some guiding elements are required to take care of the buckling effect of the springs. So this is also limited because of the fact that some mechanical guide uh, that we use to procure may be adding some additional cost. Okay. And these are some types. This is first type of rubber spring and this is other rubber compression spring. So these are used in some of the automobiles. Now talking about the second classification is the compression shear spring. So in this type of compression shear spring, the load is carried partly by the shear and partly by the compression in the rubber. So both the effects are provided. Shearing as well as compression loads are being taken care by the springs, and these exhibit better fatigue properties. Okay, some of the examples are shown here in this image, and the source is mentioned from where this has been adopted. Now talking about the steel reinforced springs, we can see that these basically consist of a steel helical spring bonded in a rubber body. So this is a combination of steel and rubber. So this steel part of the spring shares about 20% of the load, and steel provides stability to the rubber. So in this case also we don't want to use any guide because the steel is there to take care of that buckling action that is being encountered in case of pure rubber springs. Now next one is the progressive spring. So it has initially an exceedingly small rate which rises rapidly as the center cavity closes. So here we can see that the linear one and the progressive one. So these sort of springs are also used in some of the automobiles just as per the requirement. Then comes the torsional shear springs. So these are common in practice. So this has an inner metal shaft that may be tubular or solid. So basically the rubber body is bonded on the outer through like shell. that basically is a trough-like shell. So spring is operated by rotation of the shaft about its axis, or we can say about its own axis, that is relative to the shell. Next comes the plastic suspension spring. So basically, in plastic suspension spring, the suspension consists of cylindrical container. Um, it also have secured to the chassis. It is also secured to the chassis and shaft, and that is attached to the axle. And this is free to slide within the plastic rings containing the cylinder. Okay. So in this case, these uses resilient plastic rings in compression. These are simple in construction, and because plastic is being used for the fabrication of this type of springs, so the maintenance is very less, as because they are basically hermetically sealed. Okay, so there is no contact with the environment, so less wear rate, and these provide silent operation, and weight is also less, and consequently the noise level is very less. So these may be used but have certain limitation because they are not able to withstand very high loads. Now coming about and talking about the shock absorbers. So basically shock absorbers are devices that controls unwanted spring motion through a process that is known as damping. So here we can see the principle of damping. We have a small hole, a fluid is filled inside the container, there is a cylinder and there is a piston. So when we apply some force, so this force tends to move this fluid from this small hole. So that is basically the principle that provides the dampening effect. Whatever intensity of force we are applying at the top of the piston, that will cause the fluid to move inside this small hole. So this dampening effect is dissipated into heat. So basically shock absorbers slow down and reduce the magnitude of vibrations by turning the kinetic energy of the suspension movement into the heat energy that can be dissipated through hydraulic cylinder. Okay, so that we can say that the springing device must provide a compromise between flexibility and stiffness. Okay, so that is being served by this particular shock absorber. So because if the springing device is more rigid, it will not absorb road shocks efficiently, and if it is more flexible, it will continue to vibrate even under bump. Okay, so this is undesirable basically. So we must have sufficient dampening of the spring to prevent excessive flexion. So the friction between the leaves of a leaf spring provides the damping, but because of the uncertainty of the lubrication conditions that we have discussed in previous lecture, the amount of friction also varies, and hence the dampening characteristics do not remain constant as it was earlier in the new leaf spring. So due to this reason, the friction between the springs is reduced to minimum, and additional damping is provided by means of devices called dampers or shock absorbers. Okay. So the function of the absorber is to control the excessive springing vibrations. So as the name indicates, shock absorber. So that basically it's it is the spring and not the shock absorber that initially absorbs the shock. So the shock absorber absorbs the energy of the shock converted into vertical movement of the axle by providing dampening and dissipating the same into heat that we have discussed here in the principle. So it cannot support weight and just has zero resilience. Therefore, damper is a better term technically to describe the shock absorber. In fact, so this says that dampen that basically dampens the shock, and so known as damper. So here we can observe the principle of working of a shock absorber. So what we have discussed as a principle that may be seen from here, this has been adopted from this source, Wikipedia, just only for the demonstration of the students. So as we can see here, the movement of the piston from bottom to top, okay, this opens the small valves provided over here. This red arrow we can see here, it is opened on this way and now at the bottom side. So this basically is a two-way valve. Okay, whatever we have studied here in the principle, so that valve is based on this principle. That valve is like a small hole. Okay, so two valves are there, and these are two-way valves. So it may come from top to bottom easily, but if we want to move from bottom to top, it will take some time. Okay, so this is the action. Now see, so why it is moving up and down? Say this eye of the telescopic shock absorber, say it is fixed over the frame of the vehicle. Now when there comes a bump, what will happen? When there comes a bump, so this cylinder will tend to move up. Okay, while moving over a bump, so here the wheel is fitted and it encounters a bump. So during this, it will retract. Okay, and during retraction action, what happens? The fluid from the bottom part goes to the upper part through this small hole. So that provides a dampening effect. So these are called as dampers. Okay, I hope it is clear from this particular animation. Now moving ahead, we'll talk about the telescopic shock absorber. Firstly, we see various parts of the telescopic shock absorber. So here we have two valves, valve A and valve B, and these are having two-way valves, valve A and valve B. And this is rod G, and this is the eye that is fitted over the frame. Okay, and that is the bottom part E. So what we can see here, so basically in case of telescopic shock absorber, this rod G is attached to the two-way valve A. This is the two-way valve A. So this rod is fitted over this two-way valve A, while similar valve two-way valve B is attached at the lower end of the cylinder. Okay, this is at the lower end. There is fluid in the space above assembly A. So as we have seen in the animation, there is shock absorbing fluid here, and that is basically 60% transformer oil and 40% turbine oil. Okay, so this is the composition of the oil that is being used inside the shock absorber. So there is fluid in the space above the assembly A. Here we have a bunch of fluid. Below A, here also at the bottom of A, we have the fluid, the similar fluid. And also in the annular space between cylinder C and D. Okay, so we have also some annular space. This is cylinder C, and inside this we have the that fluid, the similar fluid, which is connected to the space below the valve assembly B as shown in this figure. Okay, so this is connected through this valve. The fluid is filled inside this assembly also, and there is a vertical, this inclined opening that opens at this location. So H is basically here, H is a gland in the head J. Okay, this is a head and there is a gland H, and any fluid scraped off by rod J is brought down into the annular space through the inclined passage that is shown in the head. So whatever fluid is here, that will be passed to this side using this particular opening over the gland H. So the IE, this is the IE. I means this is the eyes of the telescopic shock absorber marked as E. So this part is connected to the axle, while other part is connected to the chassis frame, as I have told. So the fluid generally used in shock absorbers is mixture of that 60% transformer oil and 40% turbine oil. So what happens when the car comes across a bump? Then what happens? When there comes a bump, this IE will move up, and due to this motion, what will happen? The fluid will pass from the lower side of the valve assembly A to the upper side using two-way valve. Okay, but as we have seen that the volume of the space above A, that the volume here due to the presence of this rod is less as compared to this volume. Okay, uh, the fluid will also exert its pressure on the valve assembly B. Due to this action, the fluid will exert its pressure on B and go to the underside of the valve, because that is also a two-way valve. So this will go underside on this way. This passing of the fluid through valve openings provide the dampening effect, as we have discussed inside in this particular animation, and in this system we have discussed about the dampening effect created by the movement of the fluid. Okay. Similarly, for downward motion of the IE, why it moves downward? Because some pit has come on the road. Okay, there is some pit. So while moving inside a pit, the wheels will move downward, and due to which the eye will move downward. So in this action, the fluid will pass from the upper side of the valve assembly A to the lower side, and also from the lower side of valve assembly B to the upper side. So this happens vice versa. Okay. So this movement of the fluid from the upper side to the lower side and from the lower side to the upper side while encountering a bump or a pit will produce a dampening effect due to the presence of this particular oil. Okay. So that is why this is known as a telescopic shock absorber. Okay. So we can see here an image of the shock absorber that is used in various cars, that is used in bikes also, and that is being supported by the coil spring also. Okay. So to summarize here what we have discussed, the working of a shock absorber is basically based on two cycles. First one is compression cycle and second one is extension cycle. So this compression cycles comes in picture when the vehicle encounters a bump, and extension cycle comes in picture when the car or the vehicle encounters a pit. Okay, the wheels will move downward. So what happens in case of compression cycle? Piston moves downward. Okay, because due to compression effect, as we have seen here, the piston move due to compression. So this will try to retract as a telescope. This part will move up and this part will come down. So there will be a movement. So during compression, piston moves downward. This compresses the hydraulic fluid in the chamber below the piston. And we have seen two valves are there, upper end and the lower end. And that fluid will be passed through the annular space to the that part which is known as this gland H through this passage. Okay. So in case of extension cycle, which comes across due to the existence of any pit inside the road, the piston moves towards the top of the pressure tube. From bottom to top of the pressure tube, the piston moves upward, compressing the fluid in the chamber above the piston. So in case of car or truck, they have more resistance during its extension cycle as compared to compression cycle. Okay. So the compression cycle controls the motion of the vehicle's unsprung weight, and the extension controls the heavier unsprung weight. So during bump, what we have seen, the IE fitted at the bottom will move up. The fluid will pass from the lower side of the valve assembly A to its upper side. So as the volume of the space above A is less by the volume of rod G, the fluid will also exert its pressure on the valve assembly B and go to underside of valve B. So this passing of the fluid valve opening provides the dampening effect that is required for taking care of the shocks being generated at the road. Similarly, for downward motion of the IE, during rebound, the fluid will pass from the upper side of the valve assembly A to the lower side and also from the lower side of the valve assembly B to its upper sides. So this was, I think, clear from that animation as well as the principle that we have discussed. So these telescopic shock absorbers using a hydraulic fluid is commonly in practice and used in many cars and vehicles. These are the